This is the CreaseCast.
So, at my last house, it was right across the street from a cemetery.
Oh no, I don't like this.
Yes. Welcome to the show, folks.
Yes.
So my place was like a basement suite or whatever, and like Roxy kind of believes in ghosts and is like the spiritual side of things and whatever. I'm kind of like always like a huge skeptic. Like I don't believe in that stuff. Like I have no reason to believe in it. Yada yada yada. And then one day, kind of like what just happened right now before we started recording, I was sitting on the couch just minding my own business, and then this chair that I'm staring at right now, my cat is asleep on it, and all of a sudden it just starts rotating. Like
What?
like straight up, like just like does like a big like 90-degree rotation in the middle of the floor. There's no earthquake, there's nothing going on. Roxy's like in like our completely other bedroom, like 20 feet away. And I'm like just sitting there on my phone and I'm like, what the fuck? And
What?
it made no sense. I had zero explanation for it. It was like a demon just decided to come into our house
This
and
just
say
happened?
hello. No, this is like my previous house to the one that
Oh,
we
okay,
had.
okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Yep, my bad. Okay.
Prior to recording, we had an incident right now where both my cats were sitting on that same chair, and then their ears perked up and just kind of stared at my front door, even though I know both my wife and I are inside, like nowhere near the front door, and usually you can hear people approaching, so it was kind of creepy.
So in this theory, are we saying that there's a goat, that chair is haunted, or is this just ghosts are following you wherever you go?
I'm saying that there might be a ghost following me wherever I go. And kind of like the Vancouver Canucks and Laurent Brossoit, because here we are, Friday night, 10:40 p.m., and the most depressing stat I think I've ever seen at a post game ever in my life, which was Laurent Brossoit, second shutout in his career, in brackets, both against the Vancouver Canucks. You cannot make up that kind of shit at all. It's just like a demon that haunts the Canucks where they just lose in tragic / embarrassing ways. And it's like this random goalie, this 28-year-old goalie who's really never really done much but be a backup for the Winnipeg Jets. He was a replacement for Michael Hutchinson and Andrei Pavlik. He's completely average, below average at times, but he has his only 2 shutouts. 40 save shutouts against the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep.
It makes no freaking sense.
Yes, it does. It makes so much sense. This is the Vancouver Canucks. This is the team that once lost to a goaltender who had a heart attack during the game. That is true. Look
Yes.
it up. That actually
up,
happened
please.
in the 80s. I think it was in the 80s at least. It was
Yeah.
it was 70s, 80s era. A Flyers goaltender had a heart attack during a game, still
Came back
beat
for the
the
third
Canucks,
period
and then
and still
retired
beat
the
them.
next day.
Yeah.
And they're- because this is the Canucks. They give up goals. They give up more first NHL goals than probably anybody.
Yeah.
They
give up hat tricks to players that are making their returns after lengthy absences. They just lose in ways that are marvelous to behold because they don't ever make sense, but they make sense for this team in the sense that they find ways to lose in spectacular ways.
I think once a Ducks goalie in his first NHL game playing against the Canucks got a shutout, I think that's the thing we've done as well, because this is just what the Canucks are. It's not that the Canucks are not. I always say this: the Canucks are not the saddest franchise in the NHL. There are definitely teams that have had sadder existences.
Yeah,
they are the most middle of the mediocre, which in a way is almost worse.
That is worse.
If you're the saddest franchise in the league, at least you still have something to kind of hang your hat on a little bit, because you're kind of like, well, we're the worst, but we own that. We get to own that. The Canucks are not there. The Canucks have never been the worst or the best. They're always just smack in the middle and find ways to lose in the worst ways, in the most spectacular ways possible, and then win games they absolutely shouldn't at the same time. Like, they find just such a weird way to be the weirdest team in the NHL, the weirdest franchise the league's ever seen.
Yeah, because it's like, for Buffalo's sake, you're like, well, we made it to the finals 3 times and we lost. We got swept, or we lost every single time. We had Hasek in his prime and we didn't do anything with it. And now we've been rebuilding since 2008. We know pain. Our star center, Jack Eichel, wants out because our team is complete dog shit. We have Jeff Skinner making $9 million for 0 points or 1 point right now. Like, that's the sad sack. And that's almost better, because then you can just like pinpoint and be like, it's just history to be a sad sack all the time. But middle of the road, that's so much worse, because you know they can't get over the hump because they're just okay.
You've seen the pearly gates of heaven, and you've come so close to going through the threshold, and every time you just get pulled back. It's that tease of thinking that you'll someday actually make it through the gates.
Yeah.
This is not. Whereas with the Sabres, it's just like, oh, we're in hell at all times. We've never left. This is it. It's that coming so close, and then also never being bad enough to hit the absolute bottom of the barrel at any point. You're always just right in the middle. No first overall picks, no Stanley Cups, none of that. And maybe we're going off on a bit too much, and why this is dark and sad. But enough about the reverse retros and how sad they make me.
Yeah, no kidding.
They didn't play all too badly tonight either, is kind of the weird part about all this. They weren't necessarily bad. The bounces just weren't going their way the entire night.
No, like, they were desperately trying to score from the outside perimeter, and Winnipeg, with a decor as bad as theirs, somehow managed to just thwart any chance they really had, or any scoring chance they really generated. And that's like kind of unacceptable at this point. They were basically saying prior to this, you need to win something like 70% of your games until the season's done to even have a chance at like a 95-point pace in a regular season. And that's to make playoffs. Now, you don't even earn a loser point, so you've basically got to win every single game in this next stretch of February. So you got to win the next one against Winnipeg, you got to win the 2 against Edmonton, and then you got to come back and beat Winnipeg again. And it's just like you're caught. It's that great Simpsons joke, dig up stupid, because they keep digging themselves a hole. And instead of taking these steps with like complete layups, like you're at a home game and the Jets feed you Laurent Brossoit. Like, that should be a complete freebie for your team in theory. But apparently all the momentum generated, or the conceivable momentum they would have generated against Calgary, amounted to nothing. And they were rewarded with pretty much nothing. They were kept to the outside. They like almost were against the idea of scoring from center or driving on goal. There were multiple opportunities where they could drive on goal, and they instead opted to pass to like a sharp angle or like a defender on the blue line. Like, it was a bold strategy to stick with it up until the third period, and it was frustrating to watch. Like, I don't know about you, but I stopped watching the second period to go make a cup of tea because I was falling asleep in that game. It was the sleepiest game I think I've watched from the Canucks this season.
I mean, I think that's definitely fair, especially because even when the Canucks, this year in particular, when the Canucks lose, it's kind of in spectacular fashion, more or less, this year.
Yeah,
It's been very much a year of if the Canucks lose, they lose big.
Yeah.
And then if they win, they kind of win big, generally. So
Yeah.
there has not been a lot of these in-between games where Vancouver where it's just a close 1-0,
Yeah, it's a tight race down to the wire. That's the first time we've seen like like an actual tight game, really. Like there's other games where like the score gets run up and it's kind of close towards the end, but this was like any shot basically could make the difference. Like when that late power play happened, like you thought maybe this could be the difference maker here. They just tie it up, and then all of a sudden it's a fresh game state again. But man, they just couldn't do it. How could a team not beat Laurent?
How could a team? That's a great question. How could a team?
There's their next slogan. Just how could a team?
How could a team? How could you?
How could
do
a team?
this to
Question
me?
mark. It's a perfect slogan.
How could a team?
It encapsulates everything that's going on.
Team
and
like
going
that?
wrong with team like that, huh?
Question mark?
Yeah. Before we get into like more of like the kind of crappy parts and the ups and downs, what was your pick for the Infinity Blocker for tonight's game? Yeah, actually, here let's go. Let's dial it back a bit. Let's try and be extra positive. Let's say, what's your Infinity Blocker pick for the Flames game and the Jets game tonight?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I could. I feel like I could almost give it. I feel very bad doing this, but frankly, this is kind of the case of this season, where if the Canucks win games, it's more or less because their goaltending is still doing the thing where they're just bailing them out over and over. And I've picked Demko 2 episodes in a row that we've done this, I think, or I think every episode so far. And I would like to make it very clear that that's on accident. That is not on purpose. I'm not doing a bit. I'm trying to pick somebody else, but Holtby in the game against Calgary was amazing. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like that game, it's 5-1, but that game would have been a lot closer with potentially with somebody else in net. If he's not playing at that level, it's a lot closer. It wasn't like I think he had 35 saves on the night, and they weren't like bad shots or bad attempts or anything. So
they had good chances.
That game could have been a lot more of a grudge match than the final scoreline indicates.
Yeah.
And this one, Demko held the minute for a long time. There was that one save right in the second period on the power play. I believe that was on Paul Stastny that he
the stretch toe save or whatever it was.
Yeah, he like flashed the leather just like he just comes like perfectly gets across. It's a desperation save, but he snags it with the glove and gets it and keeps the Canucks only down by 1.
Yeah.
And that could have been the backbreaking goal. I mean, frankly, the 1-0 goal was the backbreaker in this case. But
and they got a freebie too on that Scheifele goal that, to me, in that one angle, looked like it went underneath and past the goal line between his pads. The one that they reviewed.
That one. That's right. Okay. That was probably in. Like,
it looked like it was in.
And I'm not saying that based on any of the any of the evidence. I'm just saying that based on I know exactly what's going on there.
Where you just kind of hide it as best as possible and try to shuffle it out with your feet.
I have 100% done that on multiple occasions and had it work on all of them. Because, I mean, obviously, when you're playing beer league, there's no video review, obviously. So it's just your word and the other team's word against the refs, right? So the trick is play it like they're crazy for thinking it went in. That's the trick. Exactly. That's the trick, kids. It's like, okay, don't blow up at the ref, guys. If you're trying to get away with something like that, you don't blow up at the refs and be like, oh, that's not a goal, blah blah blah. You just, when the other team starts pleading their case, you're just like, you're out of your mind. You just like you just act like they're the crazy ones for definitely seeing the puck cross the line.
Let this be a lesson to all the listeners out there. Gaslighting is wrong, except when you're convincing a ref that the goal didn't cross the line. That's the one time gaslighting is okay.
all is fair in love and war, and hockey is sometimes referred to as a war, even though it's not really. Even though it's kind of a problematic way to put it, but that's kind of how it goes. It's not cheating if you don't get caught.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not against.
I should not be giving that advice,
but it's kind of true. Like, you have to learn ways to cheat the system and game the system. Like, I think at one point in the game against the Jets, like, Ulevi just straight up like rode Ehlers on a back check.
Oh,
like,
I
he
saw
grabbed
that.
his jersey and let him skate him back to the crease, which is like it's funny because like a ref isn't going to call him for grabbing his jersey and like trailing him.
Yeah.
Like, because he wasn't holding the puck, so it didn't really matter. But it's just like,
it's the marathon thing where you're like, if they've got the wind resistance, so you run behind them and then cut around. That's literally what he was doing.
That's what he's got to do. So for me, Infinity Blocker, man, I it's hard to not pick Brock Besser for both games, to be honest.
Besser's a very good pick. He was very good in the Calgary game. I think this one he was a little quieter, but
yeah, but he was like, his hustle and his like, he's basically like what Hoglander is to the first line, because I think he's competing and battling on every loose puck imaginable and basically trying to make up for JT Miller's timing being completely off, Pedersen's like timing and two-way game not being up to snuff. So he's like putting in all of the effort imaginable to make it happen for his line, and you see it like the tangible results. Like, he was second in goals in the NHL at one point. I don't know if he still is right now, but
he's probably close. He's probably still very close.
He's got to be close, because I mean, you don't just like fall out a second that quickly. But for me, like, the guy's tangible effort and like the actually netting on ice results for it is really, it's impressive. Like, I mean, last season people were so concerned about Besser's shot, his skating, the season that he was having, to the point of being like, oh, we should trade him for, a defense, trade him for Matt Dumba because he's washed up. He's not going to ever be good enough. And props to him. He comes into this season and is basically having a career year. He was on like a 45 goal pace under a regular season. Like, for a guy who's like shot basically hasn't looked the same since his rookie year, like, that's huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, just props to him basically for another strong game against Winnipeg. He was really trying his hardest. The asterisk for my Infinity Gauntlets my Infinity Blocker almost always has the asterisk of, you should be giving it to Demko or Holtby, because the only reason the Canucks are in these games is because they are getting playoff-like performances from either two. Like, Demko tonight was like Vegas Demko Game 7, only allows one goal, and it's a tough one, but he is a complete wall all other states of the game.
Yeah. I do have to raise the question of like, I've seen a lot of people say, oh, like tonight he was like, oh, he's Vegas Demko. At what point is he just Demko? Like, at what point is that just him? Because I almost feel like we've gotten there. I almost feel like we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, you don't have to say, like, no one has to say Vegas Demko anymore, because that's kind of just the goalie he is now. He's not really like, it's not a hit or miss thing with him. Like, he hasn't had, again, there have not been a lot of games this year where it's been like, oh, Demko looks off, or he's looked like he lost them this game. There haven't been frankly any. Actually, Daniel Wagner wrote an article very recently about how they're not losing them games, but the Canucks goalies do need to steal them a few. I think that was actually before the Calgary game, and then pretty much since then, Demko and Holtby have been doing just that as much as they can without putting the puck in the net themselves. They've been very good, and I'm especially liking what I'm seeing from Demko. In terms of how structured his game has looked of late, and how quick to react, he really has taken a good step forward, and I like that this is the standard case for him right now. And then in terms of your question, Brock Besser is still second. He is still second in goals right now. Pretty much with the rest of the Canadian division. Like,
Yeah.
if you actually look at the goals list, like, yeah, there's a big tie. There's a big logjam of people tied at 9, but a lot of them are on Canadian teams. It's so weird how
It's it's
this
almost as if those Canadian teams are playing against the Ottawa Senators and Matt Murray. Who
Oof.
knew?
Oh, Matt Murray has not been seen in a while, which is interesting as well. Hogberg has stepped in, I think, as their main guy right now with Joey Dacord, I think is their
Joey Dacord.
I believe he's their third string. I don't know for sure. They might have they might have called up the other guy. What is it? Philip Gustafson
Phil
is the other one?
Gustafson.
Yeah.
I feel like Joey Dacord is like their go-to like AHL goalie, and Phil Gustafson's supposed to be like the next guy in line, basically. But yeah, Phil, my buddy Phil.
My boy Phil.
My boy Phil. Well, speaking of European players, one guy that we wanted to talk about from his kind of impressive performances as of late, which was Olli Juolevi. A lot of people, we kind of went off the deep end a bit after he had a strong and okay showing against the Flames, comparing his prowess on the blue line to former Canucks greats Dan Hamhuis.
Wait, somebody compared him to Dan Hamhuis? I did not see that.
I saw it. I closed Twitter because I was like, I'm good.
Who did that? Wait, who did that? You don't have to.
I don't know the actual Twitter handle. It was
okay. It was just some random. Okay.
Because like you know how Twitter works, like someone likes a tweet and it shows up on your feed even if you don't follow them. So
that's
like
why I use TweetDeck.
It just kind of came in as I was sweeping, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's why you use TweetDeck,
once.
or you make sure it just says see latest tweets instead of you click the latest tweets, because that always bugs me. Dan Hammy. Is it a promoted tweet? I've noticed that's a thing now where more and more just random promoted tweets are being sent out.
Yes. The family of Olli Juolevi paid $500 to promote a Dan Hamhuis comparable for their son. But no, in all seriousness, like he's playing fine. He kind of got walked tonight by Ehlers pretty badly when he cut to the inside towards the center ice, and Ehlers just basically turned on the jets, no pun intended, went around the outside and got a dangerous scoring chance on Demko, but Demko was good. But outside of that one moment where he got burned, he was pretty solid on the blue line all night. I think you started noticing him a bit more in his shifts too. He's getting a lot more confident in jumping up on the rush and creating offense from the blue line. Like he isn't afraid to pinch, which like for a guy with his mobility issues, like I really thought maybe he'd be a bit too nervous to try stuff like that. But man, like props to him, because like you saw him get burned like 6 times in like the first 2 games this season, and you were like, there's just no way he can fix these issues for this to make this team full time. And just like good for him. It's been a long road for him, and he's been effective so far. He was effective against the Jets. He just couldn't find a way to make it work. He was pulling the old Tyler Byers and straight up like drove to the net for a rebound attempt, and had Josh Morrissey deflected away, which kind of sucked, but kind of funny to see a defender crash the net for rebound chances. I'm sure the coach fucking hates when that happens, but man, that was pretty great. So I don't know. Any thoughts on how he's looked in the past couple games?
I mean, the Calgary game for sure. I mean, he absolutely earned the ice time he was getting and everything, and he played. He was very noticeable, and he deserves the praise he was getting in that game. And then even in this game, like he only played 10 minutes. He only had 10 minutes of ice time. That was the lowest. Easily the lowest among all the Canucks defensemen, and yet I still noticed him out there. Like I noticed when he was out there, and I noticed not for bad reasons. Like I noticed him in position, making stuff happen, and maybe he didn't get the kind of ice time that he wanted, especially compared to what he looked the 18 he got in the last game.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he wasn't a minus out there or anything. So I can see that as, frankly, that's growth. Like it's not a big, like it's not something to make a big deal about when a guy doesn't do anything other than like a couple shots on goal and a hit or something. But I think with a guy like Juolevi, specifically a guy who you're worried that might not be able to stick in the lineup based on, say, making bad mistakes or being noticed for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I think when a guy's able to come out even for a short amount of ice time and look invisible, looking more or less, but only visible for like a couple good like minor plays that they're making. That's still development. That's still development for a guy like him.
Yeah, it's all just like trying to get the most out of what he does on the ice, and it's telling that like in his shifts, even though it was only 10 minutes, I thought he stood out to the point where if you told me he played 16, 18 minutes, I would have believed you because you noticed what he was trying whenever he was on the ice. And you have to like give him props when it's like his partner most of the time is like Tyler Myers, who is not fast by any stretch and is kind of the hashtag chaos giraffe out there half the time, where he's kind of doing whatever works for him, and he's done well. So yeah, he's a net positive, and he's at least making stuff happen. So you gotta take your little wins here and there.
Yeah, he looks like the more structured of the two, which is saying
shocking.
Which is both saying not a lot, but saying something at the same, but still saying something pretty big at the same time. Like it's good that he's looking so stable compared to a guy who's been in the NHL for 12 years, even if that guy is Tyler Myers, who's still just doing his thing, just acting like the world is his slip and slide.
It really is, and he's just it's. Like his world is Tawasin water slides, and we're just in it. We're at the bottom watching him come down the slides, just going.
He loves Splashdown Water Park.
He's a big fan.
R.I.P. Splashdown.
Yes. Well,
is it still there?
No, I feel like they took that out like a decade ago at least.
It's been a while for sure, but I feel like there was at one point something where they like revived it or something, maybe like under a different name. Wait, what did you say? You said Tawasin.
I could not remember what the actual name of the place.
Okay.
I know it's now that you've said it. I remember. Yes, it was Splashdown Water Park, but to me, I just remember it was in Tawasin, so I could not tell you what it was. I know it as the water park from Blink-182's First Date music video.
Oh damn! It is still there. Now it's called Big Splash Water Park. It is still there. Oh really? Yeah.
Oh shit!
It is absolutely still there. That is hilarious. I thought that thing was long gone. Wow, the things we learn on this show.
How does that place make money in Vancouver? I was thinking about this earlier today.
It's the only place to go. Like, where else are you gonna go?
Well, you can go to Cultus, but that's like
hours.
That's like a trek, right?
But that's a day trip. That's a whole day trip. You can go to Tawasin and come home in no time.
And you got to invest a lot of time into, getting there. Well, speaking of investing a lot of time into something, Jake Virtanen had another one of those games where he was theoretically playing ice hockey. I don't know about you, man. I'm so like fed up with like talking about him on our show. I think you can tell that in our last few episodes where I'm just like fucking done. But man, I wanted to clip, like usually if you see me on Twitter, I'm clipping games and I'll do like my little thread that like follows all the game action. This game was kind of a snooze. But the few clips I did clip, it was just like Jake Virtanen completely doing a flyby. Instead of going after a body, going after the puck, he would skate into the end boards and then like back check and then stand around and then do the same thing again and then change. It was so tough to watch. Like, I'm just done. He is so... I said on the last episode, he is so fortunate that there are injuries to Tyler Mott and Justin Bailey right now, because I think his effort probably would have got him benched for the rest of the season at this point. Injuries are the only reason he's in the lineup.
And if they weren't trying to trade it, they weren't very actively trying to trade him, Zach McEwen would be in his spot right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is the last thing they can do is we can give him 7 minutes and hope someone, I don't know, ignores his $2.55 million cap hit for the next year. Like,
yeah, it was pretty clear that's kind of what they're just trying to salvage value. At least in my opinion, it seemed very clear that they're just trying to salvage value. The minute they went from benching him for most of the second period to putting him on a line with Horvat and Pearson. I think they replaced Höglander. They switched him. They put him in Höglander's spot for a bit.
Yeah.
And tried to see how that went. And I think that was very much in an effort to try and showcase and be like, look, he's playing in the top 6. Here you want
you
this
see
guy.
Him? You want him?
You
trade you a 4th round pick to take on his whole contract so we can, I don't know. Like, I could not believe the tweets going around the other day, and it was like they're thinking about buying out Virtanen at this point.
Oh boy.
Like, what is it, 6 months, 5 months after signing him to his deal?
If even that, it's, well, let's see, October. I get, okay. Yeah, it was October, right? Okay, yeah, that's 5. That's 5. All right.
Whatever it is, if you're at the points of discussing buying out a guy you just signed
only
in
on
favor
a 2-year deal.
On a 2-year deal that you signed in favor of opting to re-sign guys like Troy Stetcher or Tyler Toffoli. Like, the priority management of this club is just such a clusterfuck. And I mean, I think if this regime went out off the heels of finally buying out and getting rid of Jake Virtanen, it would just be exemplary of their entire status as an organization, is just holding on to something way too long and getting nothing in return and handicapping themselves for it.
Yep.
Like, they came in, they signed a bunch of deals they had no future planning around, and when it came time to actually getting rid of players that had value, they didn't, and they were stuck with these guys that they didn't even want. And instead of actively trying a way to get rid of them, they signed more of those exact same deals and continued to do so for years and years. Man.
And it's not a good look, especially when you consider that Gaudette's name has been out there as well for the time, and in comparison, he looked very good tonight. Like, he was out there and making.
He was trying.
And he was getting his attempts. I talked about the 96. That 96 jersey just might be cursed. Frankly,
he's got to get the Canucks history.
If you know anything about the Canucks history with the number 96 jersey, you know that this is just that number should just be retired out of safety, out of precaution for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Gaudette had his chances and was just missing the net a couple of times, or just didn't get the bounce. Whereas Virtanen is just not there. Like, he's not. You're not seeing him do anything out there.
He has no hockey IQ. He has no sense for offense. He has no, like, he'll wow you with one great pass every 5th game. And when you've been in the league as long as he has, that is
not good enough.
Not going to cut it at all.
No.
Like, this is where it's like, okay, got it. He isn't scoring. He is chasing the play 99% of the time. Or sorry, 96% of the time. He is chasing play. And when he does get the puck, he's a distributor. He's a shooter. He's not much of a playmaker at all. And he can't score. So it's just like all these bad things are happening for his line, but at least he's trying. He is battling on the pucks. The effort's there. He'll throw his body around even though he's a slight guy. Virtanen, man, like, he just like begrudgingly throws his body checks. And then the one time he did in tonight's game against the Jets, he like ate shit afterwards, and they got punched in the face at his own net front because he couldn't get up. Like, man, it's just like, they have to play him to try and salvage any value and try and convince a team to take him on, and that brutal albatross of a contract at this point. But
again, it's 2 years, and we're talking about it like
5 months into it.
Like it's an Ilya Kovalchuk level contract that he signed with the Devils. Like,
it's an albatross because everyone in their right mind knew it was a bad idea to sign it. It was just like, nope, don't sign it. move on, sign better players, or try and retain better players. Nope.
Yeah.
It's a wash at this point, and it's going to be a stain. Like
I
how
feel like
perfect was it that Nick Ehlers is just this dynamo for the Jets against the Canucks tonight? He is
I don't need you to remind me
he's
of that, man.
wheeling, like he's getting top line matchups against the Canucks team, and he is wheeling. Not only is he's playing in a more important role and dominating over the Canucks, but he's then also like wheeling around their other top 10 pick in his other shifts. So it's like he's clowning on two top 10 picks in the same game. And it's just like, man.
It's that and like William Neal, and then you see the really bad treatment William Nylander is getting from like Toronto media like the last couple days, or just in his entire career.
His entire career, like for whatever reason, Toronto just like fucking hates him, and it's like, why?
For no good reason.
Like, why don't you take Virtanen for like
you go.
3 weeks? Yeah,
you like
take him for 3 weeks.
You like a good Canadian boy? Have we got the fix
have
for
we
you?
got the farm boy for you? He's big, he hits, he sucks. You'll love him.
You will love him.
Insane.
The only saving grace the Canucks could potentially have right now, and this is a complete long shot. This is a tweet from Salim Valji, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. Flames reporter. Flames head coach Jeff Ward on Sam Bennett's lack of ice time tonight against the Oilers, including 0 shifts in the third period. Sound familiar? Yeah. Quote, "We'll keep that internal." That was the whole quote on that, which leads me to believe that they're just kind of getting to the Pierre-Luc Dubois sort of situation the Jackets were in a few weeks ago, where they're not that Bennett's purposely not trying or something, but the idea that there's no point in playing this guy anymore. We just need to get rid of him. If the Canucks are lucky, they might be able to go to Calgary and go, let's just trade our guys who we're having problems with and hope they work out for one another. Like that's your only hope at this point, is that you can maybe get a team so desperate to unload one of their players who they're having issues with, that they will take Jake Virtanen just because he plays regular ice time and is at least semi-reliable to play regularly, you know? That's semi.
Yeah.
But I mean, for these other teams, for some of the other teams, like in this case, like with Bennett and the Flames, they're not even relying on him to potentially, they're putting him in the press box on a regular basis, right? Yeah. Or benching him when he's in the lineup. So for the Canucks, at least they can go, well, we haven't taken Virtanen out of the lineup that much in the last 2 weeks. So maybe
we're playing him 6 minutes a night. Like, come on, he's a player, right?
He is NHL quality by certain aspects. So I feel bad. Like, I feel bad harping on him as much as I do, because he's not the only player that's playing poorly by any stretch. It's just so extra noticeable when he's not playing well, because of all the players that they left on the chopping block ahead of him. All the players they could have drafted instead. Like, I feel bad because he's kind of just the microcosm of all the other bad decisions that have gotten made. Right. He's kind of he's very much at the center of it, even though it's not entirely on him that he's there. You know? Like, he didn't ask to be put in that situation. He's just
exactly. It's what he represents, right? He represents basically just like a near decade of failure and mismanagement from the the ownership group and the management group. And it's not his fault that the management group have pegged him as this, like, to be 50 or 20 goal scorer power forward. Like, that's just not his game. It hasn't been since he joined the league. And even in his WHL years, you could tell, like, he was just not going to be anything more than a power forward who could skate, or bottom line, fourth line big guy who could skate fast. That was all he was going to do. And it's not, like, props to him for taking Francesco Aquilini's money. That's really cool. More guys should do that. Shout out.
No, they shouldn't. We've done that already. Too many players
Well,
have taken them to the wood chipper here, like Myers and Erickson.
shout out to Josh Tevez, who is sitting in Utica right now, uh, on a one-way deal, making $700,000 USD to sit
Oops.
on the bench. That is so cool. Like, props to
Oh boy.
Princeton for teaching that boy smart, because I bet Aquilini is looking at his books and he's saying, "Who's this Tevez guy? Why am I paying him $700,000? I don't know who he is." And Jim's like, well, we had to,
Oh no.
sign him and stuff.
Oh no.
But
Well, we've been canceled. That's the show, everybody. Good night. No.
it's all good.
It's all good.
But fortunately, I mean, that's what you got to do anyway. You kind of had to sign like NCAA D prospects at this point, because like they have nothing coming.
Yeah,
It's
you
kind
take
of like,
flyers. I don't mind
you gotta
taking.
take flyers. Like, that's fine. It's just kind of like I feel like they signed him to those deals out of college to get them into games, and then they extended them after the season was over. And I don't think Tevez really showed anything in his NHL game that would make me say you should kind of hitch your ride to him. He wasn't anything special. He had good skates. That was it. This is like a tangent that I don't really care to go on, because like
Well,
he's not going to be a factor now that Jack Rathbone's going to Utica this season. But it's just kind of like it was a bit of a weird re-signing, but I sort of get it. But it's like, why would you sign him to a one-way deal?
yeah. I'll say this in terms of the Vertanen stuff, to just kind of tie a bow onto that. Yeah, one of the just one of the main issues that have been plaguing this Canucks management team for a long time, that almost I don't think gets talked about as much as it should, is that this team constantly brings in players to play a role that they're not meant to play, that they were not built or designed to do. And I feel like sometimes we in the market give the players a lot of shit for sometimes not being these players, for not panning out, but specifically because management put them in this position where they're expected to be this specific one thing that they are very clearly not. Like, one of my biggest harps of that, and like biggest examples of that over the last so many years, was Eric Goodbranson. Like, they really touted Goodbranson as, this is the big guy who's going to intimidate people from taking liberties on our good players, and he's gonna hit everything that moves, and he'll fight guys who try anything dirty.
Yeah.
But that's not what Eric Goodbranson ever was. He's big, but he ate, and he's handsome. Besides the fact that he only had like 3 fights to his name by that point, he's a guy who very clearly wants to be an offensive contributor and put the puck in the net. He doesn't want to be the guy back on defense trying to make the safe play. That's not his thing. He's not a big hitter. He's a guy who wants the puck. And say if you had put him with a guy that actually wants to do that kind of stuff, instead of trying to force him into that role, he never necessarily would have become anything better than he was here. Yeah. But I think he would have been more successful and gotten a lot less put under the microscope than he did, because they put him in the wrong role. Vertanen is the same way to a degree. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten to the point with Vertanen that there really isn't a role that fits him, and
outside of just being a fourth line.
And even then, that's a role that he does not want he doesn't seem to want anything to do with.
No.
He doesn't seem to want to put the effort in for a lot of those roles. But the Canucks have done this so many times over the course of the course of the Benning era, is take these players and try and really jam them into this role that they are not never have been designed or comfortable playing.
Yeah.
And then are surprised when that doesn't work. And that's something that this management team or the next one needs to learn quickly. needs to learn quickly that you need to, if you're gonna pick a guy based on what you've seen out of him before, you need to be getting them for the role that they properly fit into you, even in your system, even if you already have that. That's kind of or at least find the guys who actually fit the bill for what you need.
Yeah, that's always been like the problem is they've struggled to actually identify the guys for their actual playing ability, and they kind of have this mold that they believe a player can fit into. And instead of finding the square peg for the square hole, they are constantly trying to find the square peg that'll fit into the round hole. And no matter how hard they hit it and how many times they try to hit it, it never seems to work. And they constantly keep having to reset every single year in finding that next square peg they think will fit into the round hole. This year, it was let's see if Jake Virtanen can be a power forward again. It didn't work, and here we are. But I think we're done talking about Virtanen. It's boring. It's the same argument every time.
Let's go to somebody more fun, like Nils Höglander, who was who absolutely just very quickly started living rent free in Derek Forbort's head.
Out of nowhere, all it took was one hit, and Derek Forbort just got pissed from that one little shoulder to the chest because he was going into the boards head down and then skated into a like 5'9" kid. And it's like gets all pissed off about it and then tries to break his spine with cross checks. No calls from the ref on any of them. Hits him with a slash and then just tries to like instigate a fight with him. Like against along
like
the board.
What? Like that reffing at the end was awful. Oh,
it was
like that was terrible. How do you not throw him out of the game? Like how is he not? How is Forbort not gone from the game after that?
I have no idea.
I'm not saying that because I'm a biased Canucks guy or something here. Like I'm
not
literally
a
saying
homer.
that based on if let's say the script was flipped here. Like if that was Höglander doing that to Forbort, I would be saying the same thing. Like that's not okay. You can't just go like and. There's the cross checks, and then there's the whole I'm gonna grab the guy from behind and start pummeling him.
Yeah.
You
well,
can't
he's not
do
expecting it. Like, come on. And then after that whole thing, they gave offsetting minors. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
It's I forget who specifically tweeted this, but it was like refs always talk about game management and stuff. And yet here they don't ever actually manage the games properly. It's so true, which is so true. Yes, the refs have a very tough job, but it's very blatantly obvious that a lot of the time they're not actually calling penalties so much as they're calling penalties based on the flow of the game and what a penalty is changes depending on what point of the game it is, which is incredibly stupid.
Yeah. Oh, this team's getting momentum. Better call a penalty so they can get a power play and see if they can do something with it.
We've called three in a row on this dirty team, but we're gonna call one on the clean team to even things out, even though they're not actually doing anything serious here. Yeah, like that's it's completely stupid. A penalty should be far more black and white about what is a penalty.
Yeah. At
the end of the day, and that was but in this case there was a very blatant penalty, and they just didn't call it for no good reason.
No, they just straight up decided to put away the whistles on actual calls, and then when it was like legitimately like 4 cross checks to the lower spine of a smaller player for no reason, they then decided to call offsetting minors. And it's just like, don't even try to pretend that this isn't like just you making up for the fact that you've blown a bunch of calls in the game to that point. So you've endangered the safety of your players by having this 6'4" beefcake of a defenseman trying to beat the shit out of this rookie who's like half his size because you didn't call like a shoulder check. I don't know what the hell they were like Forbort was expecting, but like the fact that they didn't call anything on those hacks like along the walls is just we know it's a close game and there's 2 minutes left, but you gotta call it. You can't
Yeah.
just not because you're like, oh, we don't want to give a team a power play or the home team a power play when they're down by 1 goal. That's not fair. It's like, fuck
Yeah.
fairness. You got to call it the way it is. And those were like completely blatant fouls. And it's just embarrassing that this keeps happening and seemingly is an issue with Canucks players like over and over. I don't get it.
Yeah. And then by not calling the penalties as they should have, it ended up triggering a line brawl. Like that's
Yeah.
and now there's the whole it's gonna go now there's the whole narrative of is this gonna set off a really dirty game on Sunday when they meet again. With the same refs, probably, because that's the way the NHL has been running the system this year. Has been the same refs to prevent extra travel in the COVID era. So this is now you're looking at a situation where you, by not properly managing this game, you have potentially made next game a lot more dangerous for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the inherent problem with this whole with how the changing the rule book based on what's going on in the game. It should be a lot more clear that you just call them as they are instead of just letting it fester into this kind of crap. Like, it's not good. And it completely ruined what was a good game. Like, up to that point was a pretty decent game. As far as clean, energy, like, well, I mean, you said it was boring, but
it was boring, but it was still good back and forth. Like, it was a tight game, but it was back and forth and wasn't really too dependent on like power plays and like weak calls, soft calls. But it was like at the very end when the game needed like an actual call to be made, they let it get away from them. And like you said, next game we're probably going to see Jordy Ben or some guy step up to Derek Forbort for no reason and try and instigate a fight for like to make up for the egregious hits or whatever and the non-calls of the last game. Like, it's so dumb. And you'd think like refs would know the hockey culture by now, that's like what you're basically signing these players up for in the next game. Need to be better. Needs to be some kind of accountability a bit.
Yeah, it needs to be better. And with Hoglander, as far as away from that, he's another guy who I feel like we could be giving the infinity blocker to every single week.
Yeah, just because... you could, because of just like his on ice or his off puck activities, his on ice activities, like everything he's doing on his shifts are meant to get the puck in the offensive zone and try and get pucks on net, which is what you want from every forward. And he does it and makes it look so fun and so clean. But he just hasn't found some luck lately. He's been a little bit snake bitten lately, which is unfortunate because you see his work rate and his effort, and nothing seems to be going his way, which is disappointing. But I don't know, just tonight, like, he was all over the place, man. He was awesome.
Yeah, I'm honestly asking the question at this point, like, how quickly does this guy get an assistant captain? Like, become assistant captain? Like, it's not this year, obviously. He's a rookie. They wouldn't do it to it. They wouldn't give it to him. Absolutely not in his first year. But I honestly do wonder, like, how quickly that guy gets an A. He's a hardworking player. I don't know what how talkative he is in the locker room. I assume right now it's not a lot, just because he's new and I don't know how great his English is. I have not heard him talk much, so I'm not aware. That's just personally, right. I'm not aware. Somebody else can probably tell me I'm wrong on that. But I would not be surprised if, sooner rather than later, this guy's got an A on his jersey. And I'm honestly surprised at the same time that we haven't seen more of the younger guys get them. Like, I get why Sutter and Edler have them to a degree, but at the same time, like, why hasn't Pettersson just been given one? Like, why don't you give one to PD? Last year I was actually trying to make the case that Troy Stetcher should have one. But this
was a good call. Didn't happen because look what. No, I guess you can see why it didn't happen now.
Yeah, maybe. And I do wonder, especially in this case where the Canucks are struggling so much, if maybe it does benefit you potentially to go to some of the younger guys, specifically the guys on your team who are leading the offensive charge and are going to be the guys putting the puck in the net every single night for you, more or less. if just kind of as that boost of confidence, you just kind of go to them and be like, all right, this is your team. I'm giving you an assistant captain. I'm giving you an A because this is your team and I want you to lead. You know, if you're Travis Green, you give them that A to just go, look, you're the leader. This is your group. I want you to lead these guys because this is your crew, you know, sort of thing.
And
I wonder if that would maybe
it has to.
If it would maybe hit them a little bit quicker that maybe there's something extra I could be doing. Not that, again, Pedersen hasn't been bad. He's just been having trouble.
Yeah.
Like, things have just not been clicking for him for whatever reason. And we've already mentioned that Brock's been working his ass off for the last so like this whole season, frankly. It's been it's flown a little under the radar almost. And those guys in particular, and then Hoglander as well. Mm-hmm. Like, why not? Like, honestly, why not throw it to them? I know it's kind of symbolic at the end of the day, but still.
Yeah, but like, it kind of reaches a point where the management group or the coaching staff reward tenure and veteran status for who they give their A's to and their captaincies to. Well, no, Horvat was apparently born to be a captain, so like, of course, that's why he got it. But for the A's, it's always never really been about work ethic for this group. It's always been like kind of who's been here the longest. Here's Sutter, here's Edler, here's, you know, name whoever else, right? It's never been, okay, here's this kid, Elias Pettersson. He is busting his ass every single shift to make this team win. Why wouldn't you give him an A? Even if he's not vocal in the locker room, like, I feel like on ice work rate and work ethic speaks louder than words. Niels Hoglander, guy is a kid showing up in his debut year on North American ice, and he is giving it all every single shift. That speaks so much more than, oh, well, Jay Beagle's been in the league for 12 years and he worked his way up from the ECHL and he is very fit at training camp. Like, I don't give a shit. He's garbage. He plays 6.5 minutes every night because he can't play.
Does he have an A?
I have no idea. I think the
I wouldn't be so. I mean, that totally would stand
logic,
if he did.
The logic checks, yeah. But
yes,
it's like,
the logic is totally
the A's
there.
are definitely like Sutter, Edler.
Sutter and Edler are definitely
maybe Miller or something. I don't know.
I can't. Oh, interesting. I went to the one site that does not list them.
Classic. But yeah, you just like that's the logic that checks out for this kind of team where they reward tenure and veteran status more than actual work ethic. But I think the team itself needs to transition to a state where they are valuing guys' work rates and work ethic over the fact that they've been in the league as long as they have. It's time to get away from those contracts and the fact that Myers is on a 6-year deal or whatever. Like, who cares? Give it to the kids that are working their butts off.
I mean, they used to kind of do that. Like, that used to be kind of the run of things. Like, I mean, when the Sedins or the captain, when Henrik was captain, I mean, yes, Daniel obviously got an A, but like Kessler and Bieksa got them pretty quickly, and they weren't like, yeah, they were been there a long time, but they weren't like the oldest guys in the room or anything. Like, they definitely hard. Guys. They worked hard.
This regime in particular, like, they signed all those contracts to older guys and then gave them A's and were like, they're signed for their veteran leadership, therefore they need to have the A's regardless of how good they perform, which kind of seems backwards to me, but I mean,
yeah, so
that's why I'm sitting here on a couch drinking White Claws talking about the Vancouver Canucks and not a coach in the NHL, but here we are.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, that might be it. I mean, yeah, they only have Sutter.
That could be it.
Sutter and Edler are their only two assistants this year. They had Tanev as well last year, but they did not replace Tanev this year, which is kind of odd. Like, just in the sense of, like, it's not like there's a lack of candidates.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been, like, if you had come, like, 2 years, if this was, like, 2 or 3 years ago, and somebody wasn't coming into their place, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks, that's fine.
Yeah.
But this year, there's plenty of options for you. Like, just like give it to Petey or something. Give one somewhere, or JT Miller. But I mean, he had a little bit of a rough go.
Yeah.
So now maybe that's a bit of a different question. But the beginning of the year, I'm surprised. That surprises me.
Well, you know who's someone they could give an A to? Who? I'm gonna pitch a little something for you. A guy by the name of Jack Eichel.
Okay, now
So we're gonna slip away from the Canucks news
sort of,
because
yeah. But now
we
I do have to. Now I have to ask you one thing though.
oh
If Jack Eichel were a Canuck,
yeah.
if Jack Eichel were to come to the Canucks, would he not get Horvat C? Do you not think that would be a thing?
I if okay, if they traded Horvat to
Oh,
get
how dare
Eichel,
you! Oh, how
I
dare you!
think you would be giving the C to Pedersen and you would give Eichel the A only because Eichel would be the new kid on the block. That would just be my only thing is that you would give it to a guy who actually has experience in that locker to that point, and that would have to be Pedersen.
Give it to Braden Holtby. They should give it to Braden Holtby.
Dude, he's so cool.
Yeah, you see his guitar? He's playing guitar now. Or he did. He always played guitar, but
give Holtby the C and then give his turtles the A's.
I am a loud proponent of giving more goalies the captaincy, especially after Lou did it. Lou is
wild. It's super cool.
People love to admit that. They're like, oh, what? Like they'll completely ignore the fact that Lou was a captain. And I'm like, and when especially with like the retirement talk, I'm like, this is a guy who was a damn captain as a goalie.
Yeah.
Like, get the hell out of here.
Cool.
That was the first guy since the 40s or 50s to do it. Bill Durnan of the Canadians. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This is not the Lou. This is not the retire lose number show. It's always that.
This show is apparently now the Sad Sack podcast because we're talking about the Buffalo in the front of our podcast and towards the end of it. And we wanted to quickly talk on Elliot Friedman allegedly breaking the news that apparently the Sabres are considering or discussing the idea of trading Jack Eichel. And so, of course, Taj1944 on Twitter, the voice and speaker and rule maker, story breaker of the Canucks Twitter, pitched the idea of what it would take for the Canucks to get him. And some of the trades were like absolutely hysterical just because of how dumb and bad they were. It was like, Gaudette, Virtanen, a first, and Podkolzin. That should do it. It's just like, nope. Doesn't do it.
Somebody had one that was really funny where it was just like all the Canucks AHL fodder guys.
Yeah.
and then some Sabres fan was like, this is ridiculous. And they were like, fine, we'll give you Chatfield. I got a huge kick out of that.
That's so good.
That was very funny. The props to whoever wrote that. That was some good trolling.
Dude, that's some good trolling. So
that's some fantastic trolling.
Yeah. So we only really wanted to bring this up because I had a little thread going on Twitter, basically just like outlining how all the trades were really dumb and that the only way this would work is if the Canucks management was ready to give up all of their assets imaginable, and 2, still considered themselves in win now mode and thought that actually trading their captain for Jack Eichel would result in playoff success, which I mean, like
if you okay, like if you get Eichel, like objectively, yes. If you just got Eichel, like say as a UFA or something, like a completely different way, yeah, of course he's going to make your team much better.
Yeah.
But in terms of a trade, you have to think about the fact that this is a Sabres team that is incredibly desperate to actually win a damn thing and actually, like, not even win a damn thing, just make the playoffs. Just make the playoffs once. They just want to make the playoffs.
Not even win playoffs or win, just get there. They need to win a trade. The last time they traded a star player, they got nothing in return.
Who was that?
So they traded Ryan O'Reilly for Vladimir Sobotka, some picks, and Tage Thompson, who's basically just like their Jake Virtanen. He's just a big guy who can't skate and can occasionally provide some good offensive chops, but is most likely a bona fide AHLer for that team. So
and you could argue they got less than nothing on that because what was it? Patrick Berglund immediately
was like, I don't want to play in Buffalo. I would rather retire or go play in Sweden or whatever. Like, it was amazing. Yeah. He's like, fuck this. I am not playing in Buffalo. That's how much of a tire fire it is.
Yeah.
Which is rad.
Yeah, that's it. That poor, like that. I feel so bad for those fans. Like just in general, like oh my god, the pain you must
Yes.
sit through. Because even when they do kind of like get decent players, every time they come to Buffalo in the last few years, they just immediately just go
Yeah, they
take
just
the
crater.
biggest crater. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Colin Miller was a really good defenseman for the Golden Knights for a couple years, and then gets to the Sabres, and all of a sudden he's
Yeah.
just nothing. Like he's just
Yeah,
he barely moves the needle.
Buffalo decided, like, they saw Harmon Dial say a bunch of times on Canucks Twitter that Colin Miller would be a guy he'd go out and get. And so Buffalo did that exact same thing. And then Colin Miller turned into a below replacement level defender. And now everyone's like, Harmon wanted Colin Miller. Duh. So that's how bad
That's
things are in
Buffalo
Buffalo,
curse.
man. It's just the
Oh,
curse. Like people careers go there to die. Taylor Hall, like thought as like a really good like bargain signing for a team that was trying to just like throw stuff on the wall and see what sticks, and then thought, oh, Hall and Eichel, like that can't possibly be bad, right? Hall, Eichel, Olofsson, that's got to be good.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
then they get Jeff Skinner. He has a career year in his contract year. The following year, he completely craters his production. This year, plateaus and craters even further. Like the Buffalo curse, man, is just absolutely brutal. And
Some of their just looking at some of their picks they've had the last couple of years, like Sam Reinhart, I forgot
yeah,
about that. There was a couple in there. I think there's a couple more in there that I'm missing. Like Rasmus Ristolainen,
There's Casey Mittelstadt, who is like an
Casey
absolute
Middlestat.
blast to watch at the AHL level, but like seeing him try to jump to the NHL like is like quite a steep one. He's
He's
like
a
one
bit
of
of a
those
Hunter
tweeners,
Shinkarik.
basically.
He's like a
Yeah,
Hunter
he's like
Shinkarik kind of guy.
he's like an elite quad A AHL player, kind of like a Reed Boucher, but like he's got the speed, he's got like the hands and all that, but just like making that jump is so much harder than you think. Like Victor Olofsson, like a seventh rounder so far, is looking like one of their biggest steals in the last like 5 years.
For
Outside
any
of
team,
course,
frankly, like any
outside of course, like
NHL
landing
team.
Dahlin and or sorry, Rasmus Dahlin
But
and I
even
guess Sam Reinhart or whatever, or in
But
Eichel,
even
but
but even Dahlin wasn't even the best defenseman in his draft class because the Canucks have that guy, and that guy's name is
yeah,
Quinn Hughes. That's just where the Sabres are at in their timeline right now. We're just everything, even when something goes right for them, 50 other things went horribly wrong to get there.
yeah, pretty much. And
So
so here they
so break
are.
down the idea of like Eichel to the Canucks, I guess. Like break that
So
down.
so for anyone that like didn't see it, basically I broke down what an Eichel to the Canucks thing would look like, and this isn't even this is how it would shake out. This is like this is a pitch that would get you to the dinner table to even discuss trading him, because in reality, the ownership group of Buffalo isn't going to stomach another rebuild. They've invested so much into Jeff Skinner to not have another rebuild with that absolute albatross on their books. Like they're going to do the Jim Benning approach of try to retool on the fly with Eichel and Skinner and Dahlin in his ELC that expires very soon, to try and make it happen. Otherwise, they're going to have to blow it up. But I don't know if they have the patience to do that again in the last 15 years, like 4 times in the last 15 years. They don't have the time. So, that being said, the pitch would obviously have to start with a number one center. The Canucks are not going to trade Elias Pettersson, so it would have to be Bo Horvat, a proven two-way center who has played elite top line matchup minutes for the Canucks over the past 5 years. That starts the conversation. You're probably also adding Vasily Podkolzin because he's basically looking like he'll be another Niels Hoglander, but you kind of know what you got in Hoglander right now, and I don't know if they want to take the risk of trading him unless they think Podkolzin will be a better version of him, in which case they would do the reverse and flip Hoglander, which would go over so very well with this market at this point. Uh, and then you're trading away your 2021 or 2022 firsts, either
Maybe
one
both.
or both, because that's how fucking elite Jack Eichel is. But where the thing everyone forgets is there are huge cap considerations to this. The Canucks can't just like trade a bunch of assets and get Eichel in return and then flip pieces to make it fit. They would have to, in this trade or in trades prior, flip out enough cash to fit Eichel under the cap. So it would be Bo Horvat's full deal, Sven Berchi's full deal, Virtanen's full deal, and I think you might have to flip another $1 million contract, and then you can fit him in. So that's 4 pieces you have to get rid of. One of them, which is Horvat, is actually going to be like considered like one you're not paying to get rid of. So then 3 of them are pieces you have to pay to get rid of. So Sven Berchi, you're going to have to give up at least a second or something to get rid of him and his full contract. Maybe even you get rid of Michael DiPietro or one of your premier top pipeline prospects that are like on the cusp of being NHLers. It wouldn't be Jet Wu, it wouldn't be Cole Lind, because those guys are completely unproven and there's no guarantee that they can be NHLers. Goalies are different, and DiPietro likely is that guy for them. Then you have to get rid of Virtanen. And as we just spent about 20 minutes talking about him,
That ain't gonna happen easy.
paying some team, so Detroit or even Buffalo for all we care, paying them to take on that second year, that's a $3 million salary. You are paying probably a 4th round or a 2nd round pick to get rid of that full deal, or a Jet Wu / a Cole Lind. You're giving up 4 assets at the minimum to get rid of the cap hits that are preventing you from taking on an Eichel straight up with just a deal that includes Horvat, Podkolzin or Hoglander, and a shit ton of 1st round picks. And if you're the Canucks, if you're Jim Benning, maybe you consider it. You say, fuck it, I need to get out of all the bad contracts I've signed myself, and I'm going to go for it. This is the year to make the playoffs. It's the Canadian division, and then you get into the finals, or the conference finals. That's about as good a shot you're ever going to get. So do I mortgage the future? Hell yeah. Do I sell off the captain and a future potential top 6 winger? Yes. But do I get an elite number 1 center to play with Elias Pettersson and JT Miller or Brock Besser? Absolutely. That's a huge get for the Canucks if they could pull it off. But there are so much inherent risk in that deal. I don't think Jim would have the balls to do it. But if he did, man, could you imagine imagine your center depth for the Canucks where you basically upgrade Horvat to Jack Eichel, and it's Eichel, Hoglander, and Pearson on your second line, and your first line is still the Lotto line.
Hoglander and Pearson.
You know how unbelievable
I just think the idea of like hell yeah, we got Jack Eichel. Like as much as I love Tanner Pearson,
it would be very funny.
As much as I really love Tanner Pearson, like he's legit one of my favorite players on the team.
Yeah.
It would be really funny if that's the place where they decided that's where
it would be fun.
That's the place the Canucks need an upgrade. It's at their top 6 center. Definitely, that's the place that needs fixing right now.
But it would just be so incredible, like in like a very like forward-thinking group too. You could conceivably have a world where it is Elias Pettersson centering Brock Besser and Antoine Roussel or Zach McEwen. And then your second line is Eichel, Hoglander, and Miller, and that's your premier top like 2-way matchup line. And then your third line is like Besser and Gaudette and someone else, like just an elite goal scoring, like offense only line. Like man, you could just like shake up your line combo so much if you added Eichel into that mix. Or you could just go top heavy as Travis Green likes to, and you have your bottom six of Beagle and Sutter with a bunch of taxi squad options because you sold everything you have to make this deal work.
Yeah.
But man,
Uh,
it'd be
it's
wild. It would never happen.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure. It's definitely not going to happen. I'm personally of the mindset, though, I'll say this, like, as much as I think Eichel is a fantastic, like, he's a great player, fantastic hockey player, makes every team that he'd ever be on better, very clearly. I mean, the Sabres would be just drowning even more so than they are now without him. However, he's one guy, and the cost benefit for me is not there. Like, as much as I like the guy, I would be I don't love the idea of giving up that much to get one guy.
Also,
unless you'd have to get more back in return, and that's not going to happen in this kind of a trade. You're not going to get anything more. So I would say that you are frankly looking at a case where, you might definitely improve your team, but how much would you miss those extra assets that you just lost as well? And how many, frankly, can he make up the wins in replacement of those guys would be quite, if they project to be as good as they do, specifically a Podkolzin or a Hoglander with Horvat, if you're combining that mix, that's a lot of wins to replace. And I don't know if Eichel on his own could do that, especially if you're looking at a case where they would be losing all those guys and only getting one back, and then not having the room to replace the cap space still to replace anything else, to add anything. You'd
basically be committing to mortgaging your future for 2 years, because you would have to sell off a ton of assets to then fit Hughes and Pettersson under the cap on top of Eichel's $10 million contract. Yeah. So like,
you'd be looking at
if it got you to the finals, if it got you to the Stanley Cup finals because it works and it pays off, man, maybe you do it, but holy moly.
They're not there yet.
And that's just such a gamble that for an organization that frankly has been terrible at identifying pro players in their history, and a part of me wants to be like, the kind of guys they have identified in trades include like Emerson Edom, Brandon Prust, Eric Goodbranson, who's to say, or sorry, Jay Beagle, Brandon Sutter. So who's to say Jack Eichel's even on their list of a good player? Because clearly they've established that they have no clue what a good player looks like in their history as running this team.
This Connor McDavid guy, he's a scrub, right, guys? Yeah,
he's a bum.
We didn't want him anyway. But you know what? I will say this whole conversation does lead me to two other kind of ideas surrounding it. Like, number one being, maybe instead of looking at Eichel, could you maybe look at something like a little bit on the more affordable side, like Taylor Hall? Like, could that be something that they maybe should be looking more seriously into? Because left wing, putting him on your left wing all of a sudden, either to replace, say, I would assume JT Miller would be part of the trade going back, or at least.
Yeah.
Or something like, say he replaces him on that top line with Pettersson and Besser. That's a sick line all of a sudden if he gets going the way you expect it to. I mean, he was a Hart Trophy winner not that long ago. But say somehow you manage to pull it off that you get Hull because he's only on a 1-year deal. You manage to get him for without taking out any of the top 6 guys that are already in your lineup, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that would be very difficult to do and maybe impossible to pull off. But I mean, I think the Coyotes still got him from the Devils initially without giving up anyone already on the roster. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially considering the year he's been having. I might look at that as kind of the extension of, well, if they're going to trade Eichel, maybe we can get Hall for a discount while they're trying to get that other deal done, while they're trying to get the big haul on Eichel.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think is worth asking is there a way for the Canucks to potentially get involved in an Eichel trade, but as a facilitator to kind of make a deal happen to another team? Is there a way that they could maybe...
Right?
Is there a way that they could maybe get rid of some of this dead cap weight and help by helping another team sort of deal with what's going on, or like say just trying to get some of the paychecks off the books? It's kind of a tough question. I don't know who would be able to make that happen, especially right now when not a lot of teams have the money, period, to bring in anyone, let alone a $10 million Jack Eichel, because of COVID and everything that goes along with it. But there might be some teams out there that you could be involved as like the third party to get something done to make that work. Right. And it might pay off for you. Pay off for you if you're lucky.
It's never too late for this management group to surprise. And while they are completely under the gun by national media for just the struggles that the team has currently had, it would be quite something if they thought outside of the box for the first time in 7 years and acted as a facilitator in a trade. I mean, it'd be really something. I doubt it would ever happen because experience tells me to not get my hopes up on creativity. But who knows? Yeah. We're a positivity podcast, and we hope for the best for this team. Yeah. So
because in the one case that it is still hard in the sense of the cap. The cap space is kind of the thing that a lot of teams have to make those things work, which the Canucks don't. But one of the things they do have kind of at their advantage right now is they only have 46 contracts out of 50 right now.
They have space.
So they have space to take on more contracts, but not money. So there might be a workaround there somewhere that kind of could go, well, if this team needs to offload extra pieces or whatever to make this work, like there might be something there to be the third party to kind of make something else happen. It would. Yeah. It's out there if you try, if you look.
Yeah. Last thing I think that we're going to get into.
Yes.
I think you saw the pictures on Twitter.
Oh,
I saw the pictures on Twitter. Man, Lake Tahoe with no audience, just an outdoor rink. God damn, that looked so fucking good.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I completely forgot that they were doing these games until like this week. until I saw the pictures. I'm like, oh, right, that's a thing. Like they're still playing outdoor games, but they're playing them like away from everybody else. Which is great because for theoretically they could have played a game in a stadium with people, but they chose not to, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah, they picked the best option possible, basically.
Yes, and oh my god, that scenery is gorgeous. Like, that is
Chef's
beautiful.
Kiss, baby.
It's almost like, why haven't we done this before? Like, why wasn't this done in a normal year? This is great. Like, it's gorgeous out there. I love Tahoe. I've been before. I've been to the California side of Tahoe anyway. It's kind of a Kansas City situation where it's a little bit on the Nevada border. It's a little bit across Nevada. It's a little bit in California. Mm-hmm. It's so nice. I've been skating at some of the ponds outdoors. It's nice. Really nice out there, and it's really fun. And those players are gonna have such a great time.
Yeah. When's that game? Is that tomorrow?
There's two. Tomorrow is the Avalanche Golden Knights game. I think that's first tomorrow. And then Sunday, the Flyers and the Bruins play, I believe, as well. I think that's the way it is anyway.
Yeah, so folks, after you're done listening to this podcast, make sure you tune into those games on Saturday, Sunday, because, man, there's going to be some sweeping scenery shots that are going to be for the ages. I'm telling you. Rick Dollywall, I'm telling you. It's going to be beautiful.
I did want to ask you the one question as we get out of here, though. Like,
yes, sir.
I guess if the NHL, should the NHL be doing more of these like made-for-TV games down the line? Because this is this was made specifically for a television audience versus a stadium game. And if they did, where should they be putting them?
Man, Banff.
What are like some good places?
Like, they got to do one in Banff somehow. Like, do it on Lake Louise or some shit. Like, you gotta maximize the scenery and just kind of like embrace the whole outdoor nature of it. Like don't be doing it in open air stadiums. Don't be doing it in like baseball fields that have been converted because the Michigan Wolverines played there once. Like nah. Embrace the nature, embrace the outdoors as best as possible. If you can do one, if you can fly people to the middle of a mountain range and get them to play a game to like no one in the stands and it's just the coaching staff and the refs and camera crew, man, it looks so good and so clean. Do that as best as possible. It looks great on TV. It provides like just like spectacular photos. Like you got to do it more than anything.
I'm gonna throw an interesting idea out there. I'm gonna throw a couple like really weird ones because I knew Louise was gonna be big on either your list or mine already. So
yeah,
I was like trying to think of like what's something like a little bit different, and it got me thinking like what if instead of going somewhere cold, you like took it to like Hawaii or something. Like something like like off like where you can like see the volcano in the background or something, or like palm trees everywhere. Like that would be the hugest test the NHL has ever had on their outdoor ice surfacing equipment.
Creating ice in like 40-degree weather.
Yeah, but that would be. But I mean, I think from what I've heard, because they talk about the science of how they do this now.
Yeah,
and
apparently it's making sure it's dry or something.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily cold. It's how dry it is.
Right, and apparently they're getting like really good at being able to. They're getting to the point where they feel like they could theoretically put it just about anywhere. Like they could put that ice down wherever they want to. Like they're getting that close.
Man,
because it is a science.
Hawaii has they have an outdoor rink, like a street hockey rink in Kihei. It's like literally right on the beach. It is.
Oh, that's so cool.
The coolest place, man. Like you just have people fishing in the background while the sun sets. People are playing street hockey. It's so cool.
Yeah,
Great
like
place.
a beach resort, and then my other one. This almost might be more out there. How about like Disney World or something? Just throw it like, just literally rent out the Magic Kingdom for a day, put an ice sheet down in front of the castle, let's go. Like that'd be sick. Like that'd be
It'd be like
cool...
a huge ad for Disney, so that would kind of kill it. But
it'd
still be neat.
I mean, okay, I have to give Disney props because they just put the Muppet Show on Disney Plus, and that has been off. Like some of those episodes have been lost media for ages, and I am very happy about it. So fair. I'll give them props there, and then who knows, maybe like as an added bonus, like all the players are wearing mouse ear helmets or something.
Oh, okay, now you're on something.
Now there we go.
I'm down for the mouse ear helmets. It would be so stupid and amazing.
It'd be so stupid. One hit would break one of them just immediately right off.
Oh my god.
But it'd be really funny where it's like, oh, they're fiberglass. Here's some like plexiglass like mouse ears we got going for you guys or something.
That is the stupidest idea that we're going to have to end the show right now on that note because that's amazing. Write to your local MP and your congressman to get this idea working.
Write to your local president of hockey ops.
Yeah, write to Jim and John Weisbrod and be like, hey, man, I'm telling you, Mickey Mouse ear hockey helmets. They're going to look great.
Game at Disney. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Disneyland Canucks game.
Well, otherwise, folks, we are glad you guys could tune into this episode. Kind of a bummer game against the Jets, but after like a really good series against the Flames. But hey, we had a good talk here. A lot of fun. As always, you can check us out on our YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to all our videos. Leave us some comments. We love reading them. They're always kind of really funny to talk about before we get into a show. Rate and subscribe to us on whatever podcast service you're using. Leave us a review there too. We appreciate that stuff. Share it to your friends. We love being shared around. That's really cool. We appreciate that a lot. And as always, we have our Patreon. Lachlan is always turning out content. We're trying to get more videos out as possible. It's really tough with my schedule because of the Utica Comet's starting up and tracking stuff, and Lachlan is working his butt off on these videos as he edits out all my swears and all my stutterings and all the times I get caught up staring at Twitter in the middle of recording.
You think I'm editing out your swears? Oh, I've got some bad news for you. Or your stutters.
Well, on that note, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on Patreon if you can. We got some great stuff coming out soon. We have $1 and $5 tiers too, and you can check out Lachlan's work. He's a fucking king. Lachlan,
Thank you.
other than Patreon, where can the find folks of the CreaseCast? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lock in the Crease. I do the North Division Power Rankings every single Sunday. I almost said the Pacific Division. That would have been wrong. I do those every Sunday, and I do feature articles every now and then as well. So go check that out. Cody, what about you?
The fine folks, the fine listeners of the CreaseCast can find me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter and thecommetsharvest.com, where you can find all of my game recaps. I'm also on Reddit/rcanucks because I'm hip and with it, as the kids say.
Debatable.
Yeah, that really is debatable. We'll cut this whole section out because I need to sound cool. Otherwise, it's gonna be really embarrassing for my ego. Until then, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning into this episode. We'll catch you on our Tuesday episode when we recap the second game against the Jets. Should be a fun one. Hopefully, it's a bit better than this shutout loss. But until then, folks, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.